Hey, yo, peace, peace. It's your man, Jones. Coming right back at you with some of that real talk real fast, man. Hey, man. Well, today is Martin Luther King Day. So I guess this is a day where I could talk about Martin Luther King. And I'm going to just, man, be 100 with you about how I feel. And like I say, entertainment purposes only, man. You come up with your own conclusions. But let's get started here. Martin Luther King, man, he was just a young kid. See, now, when you get my age, I'll be 60 within days. When you get my age, man, you start to realize that, man, when you in your 30s, you're still just growing up. And even right now, I'm in my 60s. I'm going on 60, but I am still just a baby. But when you're in your 30s, man, you're really just getting exposed to the world. And you're just starting to figure things out. You're still a kid at the age of 30. And he had a lot of responsibilities over his head, because he was being looked upon as an elder when he was really just basically, man, just a little kid, man. And he let people gaslight him to make certain decisions that did not work out for us. Because see, he was a bright shining star. And instead of him using himself to carry people onto higher levels and to building a strong economic base within the black community, he used that to guide so-called black Americans to in a direction that wasn't financially stable for us. Put it this way. A lot of people, they complain about the so-called black community because they believe the black community does not have the ability to sustain themselves and that we act like children. But what people overlook is that they overlook the fact that we have been placed in a position in which things have been taken away from us, and that they have created leaders. This system has created leaders and used them to coach us into doing things that were not beneficial towards us, such as what you would call integration. Integration, I mean, right now integration is a good idea. But right when the so-called black people were getting themselves together and building up an economic base, then someone comes out of the blue with the conversation of integration, stating that, look, you shouldn't have to just spend your money within your community. You should be able to spend your money all over the United States. And yes, that is a truth. But the only way groups of people make it here in this country is if they support one another. And we were supporting one another, and we were spending our money with ourselves, and we were putting ourselves in a position we did not in which we did not have to ask anyone to help us. We had our own banks, we had our own businesses, we owned our own homes. We took care of ourselves, but someone did not want us to be self-sufficient. So they used man against man. They took people who did not look like us. Well, I'm not going to go to that part yet. Yeah, no, I'm going to just roll with it. They took people that did not look like us and told them that we had no business having our own businesses or being able to be self-sufficient. And then they were pointing at the fact that they weren't self-sufficient. So they looked at themselves as that, well, if we can't have it and be self-sufficient and take care of ourselves, we're going to make sure that they don't have it. And what they did was they used the poorest amongst them. And the poorest amongst them were taking orders from the poor people who had a little bit more money than them, or who had a little bit more prestige than them. The American people have been going to war against themselves so that we can stay separated, so that the people at the top of the pyramid can totally manipulate and control all of us. To annihilate the economic base of the black people here in America is to annihilate to the economic base of America. Hear me out. Black so-called white people, and this is entertainment purposes only. So-called white people A lot of you are mad because you may have heard the stories about what was going on to your ancestors before us, because, or before you. Because there once was a time where the banks would literally give people who look like this here money. People who were not even deserving of the money, they would give them money. And the government was issuing out programs that would help people move into better neighborhoods. People who look like this here would help them move into better neighborhoods and get away from the communities where so-called blacks and whites live. Now, when they did this and they moved the people out, because I mean, I know a lot of people right now. Matter of fact, I was just listening to a guy on YouTube, and he had a guy who did not totally admit that he was from the Klan, but he kind of admit that he was of the Klan. And then he said he voted for so because he wanted to make America great again. The guy asked him, "What do you mean by making America great?" He said, "When America had everything for people who look like this first." He said the people who look like this here just took their jobs and got in the way of the money that's supposed to be going to them. Now let's go back to what I was just saying. Man, there were government programs that would help aid people who look like this here so that they could move forward. Because the more people who look a certain way who are doing better than the other people, it makes the other people who put, man, I hate this political correct stuff. Okay. The more so-called white people who were looking good and looked like they were doing well and lived in better homes, it gave them ability. It gave the people at the top of the pyramid the ability to be like, well, look at these people. They live in these rundown ghettos and stuff, but these people over here, they're thriving, they're doing good. So it created the illusion that these people are better than these people because these people are doing worse. But people overlook the fact that the reason why the people over here are doing bad is because of a system that was created to keep them in the position that they're in. Now, yes, there are loopholes within the system, which if you play the game right, yes, you can make it up out of there. But they're not going to let everyone go through. Now, let me give you an example. Man, I know they hate Generation X, man, because, man, we've been around long enough to see what happened. Now, let me tell you something. When I was in high school, they had a program in which they taught you a skilled trade center. They had these, I imagine this was nationwide. Now, for some reason, by the time I got to my junior year, they started to phase out. No, it started in my sophomore year. They started to phase out the skilled trade centers because I was supposed to be I was in telecommunications at first, but then they closed that class down. So then I had to take graphic arts. I had to go to another trade. But anyway, they were doing this here to shut minorities out of position to get fine jobs or get better jobs. Now, there's a movie called Waiting for Superman. I'm quite sure you can still find this. It's called Waiting for Superman. It's a documentary about the public school system. Now, here's what was said. Hey, this is entertainment purposes only. YouTube, I don't know. I mean, whatever this is, TikTok, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know nothing. Now, if you go back and you find this movie and pay close attention to it, because there's a segment in the documentary in which a guy from the unions, he calls the public school system. Entertainment purposes only. Entertainment purposes only. This is just for entertainment purposes only. The guy calls the Board of Education. He says, well, I'm calling to donate money because, we need you guys to shut down this skilled trade program. And the lady said, well, why would you want us to cut down the skilled trade program? The guy said, well, to be honest with you, he said, you're turning out too many doggone N-words Go back and watch the documentary. He said, you're turning out too many skilled N-words, and we don't have an excuse not to give them jobs. The lady started saying something, and she was trying to hint to the guy that this conversation was being recorded, but he was still being bullheaded and running his mouth. He said that the unions are willing to pay you guys money and donate money to make sure that you shut down this skilled trade center. Hey man, I don't know nothing. This is entertainment purposes only. I'm just making up stuff. But go find that documentary. See now, like I was saying in the beginning, Martin Luther King, man, he was just a kid. He did not know. And he got played, but that by the time he figured it out, it was too late. It was well too late. The damage was already done. This is why, entertainment purposes only, this is why you hear the statement when Martin Luther King, when he was talking to Harry Belafonte. And then this is how it goes. It says, Harry Belafonte said on to Martin Luther King, he said, my brother Martin, he said, you look heavy on your heart. Why are you so down? And Martin Luther King said unto him, he said, man, he said, brother, man, he said, I am afraid that I just sold my people out, that I had sold them into a house that was burning. He pushed us off of our he pushed us away from our own economic sovereignty. Because see, if we would have still been taking care of ourselves, man, there would have been no need for us to be on welfare because we would have covered our own selves. So it would be no need for people to complain about us being on welfare. There would be no need for redlining because we would have had our own communities. It would be no need for us being mistreated in hospitals because we would have had our own hospitals. We would not have to worry about foreigners taking your jobs or our jobs because we would have been taking care of our own self. You just would have had to compete with us. That's the thing. And if we can create rap music and songs and dance and almost every invention in this dog that we use in this doggone country, you know good and doggone well, a lot of people was not going to be able to compete with us. So they had to slow us down. Whenever they talk about when they talk about all these progressives, what they're talking about, they're talking about slowing down these people because if they progress faster than us, we're not going to be able to catch up with them. I mean, like I said, this is Martin Luther King Day, man. So hey, I'm just talking about America and the civil rights. Hey. You know, I don't know nothing. I haven't seen nothing. I haven't been on this planet long enough to know anything. Yeah. See now, a lot of people, man, they sit back and they talk about reparations. You know what I'm saying? Because whenever there is damage done, there should be a form of repairing the damage that was done. But here's the thing. This is why you may hear me often say things about how I may not agree with the so-called fundamentally black Americans or whatever that is. I may not agree with them, and I may not agree with a lot of things that a lot of people say because they don't think. I am telling you, and you know this here. You know that those history books are out there. Those books from the 13th, 14th, and 15th century, they are out there. You know at this point, you know that you, the so-called people who look like this here, you know that you were not a slave. You do know that, right? You were never a slave. The slave comes from the Slav people. And them Slavic people, man, they've been under the so-called tutelage of slavery for a long time, even still to this day. Where the hell do you think all the opposition comes from? Because they don't ever want to go back where they was to the state of this is where they was. And I can't blame them that, but here, If you keep up with this video, because I'm gonna give us a treat toward the end. But no, you were never that. You were prisoners of war, people. That's how that really went down. You were prisoners of war. This thing that we call the Americas, this is a continent, and it had many different countries. You had many different presidents, and they did not look like this. This system that's set up that we're dealing with right now, this is still new. And they still haven't perfected it. Why do you think they're going through so much doggone trouble right now? You know what I'm saying? Why do you think they're panicking right now? Because it's getting ready to fall apart, because it was built on doggone a sandy foundation. It's built on lies and deception. This is why, man, I'm kind of like, this guy who's in office right now, I don't know what to expect. Because I'm quite sure he's going to do a lot of catering to people who believe in unfair treatment. Because the FBI again just reminded us that there are millions of people, or hundreds of thousands, whatever, people who have infiltrated, people who have those three letters that look like a K. The FBI said that these people have infiltrated the government, political systems, and law enforcement and suspected military. No, I just threw that part in there, the suspected military, because he didn't say that, but who's to say? See, there may be people out there who'll be like, well, I'm not like that. But yeah, and I'm not talking to you of being like that, but I am saying that you cannot deny the fact that there are people who look like you who are of that, who believe that people like this here need to disappear, because every time they look at us, it reminds them that they are total losers, that they have to create a system of cheating in order to survive, in order to be looked upon as something special. Without this system of cheating that they have, they will look like a bunch of losers, which they truly are, because they can't do it hand to hand. They can't do it on an even ground. They can't do this. And this is a long video, man. I should have did this live, but everybody doesn't see him when I go live. And this right here, man, I'm probably just going to get about 200 views. You know what I'm saying? Even though it's doggone entertainment purposes only, man. When I talk about the people coming together, they get mad at me. They punish me. I'm getting tired of doggone dealing on this thing any doggone way. Yeah, man. Getting back to what I was saying, this continent had many different countries on it. And then there were some people who wanted to bring about this thing called the New World Order. But in order for them to bring about this New World Order, they had to conquer continent at a time. Now, within each continent, there were many countries within each continent, so they had to conquer those countries within the continents before they can take control over the continent. They did this in Europe, they did this in Asia, they did this in so-called Africa, they did this in many different places around the world, and they did the same thing here in the Americas. Now, in order for these people who stand behind the curtain, in order for them to rule the whole world, like I said, they have to beat all of these countries. Okay, if I wanted to rule something and I knew it was a continent and the continent had many countries on it, but in order for me to control this whole continent, I have to herd everyone together up under one system. Okay, so I would go to war. I would send spies into their governments that they have. I would go to war. I would buy out anyone I can within their government to work within their government to tear down the government within their little countries. And each one that I beat, it makes it better. It makes it easier for me to end up owning the whole continent. So you have to beat each country first, and then you take over the continent. Now this place that we call the world, it has many different continents. So they have to do this same thing all over the doggone place to devise a system to bring it all together as one thing. The United States is what they did was they united the different countries, or they united the different states up under one government so they can control the whole thing. Now you have this thing that they call the so-called yay, yay, yay. The 3Ks I was talking about. These guys are a paramilitary group, and they are designed to go out to do the illegal things behind the law. And they're also used to enforce the doggone division amongst the doggone people. Now, whenever you find these different paramilitary groups and stuff, whether they be yin heads, yaud boys, nay, 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 whether it be any of them, most of the time, the people who are their leaders, who have the loudest voice, those are usually the ones who have the meetings behind the green doors. The green doors where they discuss the things that's going to be done. Because look, isn't it strange? Man, the nay, nay, nay. Back in when they came into existence, they had a problem with the so-called Jewish people. But what is the problem that they have with the Jewish people? Because those Jewish people kind of look like them. You see that, and it's kind of strange because what if they had a problem with the Hebrew people? And these Hebrew people looked a certain way. What if they defeated these Hebrew people and changed their history and changed what they look like? And then what if they took some of their own people who look like them and programmed them to play the part of as a Jewish person? And throughout the process of time, the people from the nay, 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 they totally forgot that the Jewish people was just pretending to be who they was. So then they actually became their enemies as time went by. And they totally forgot about the Hebrew people who they originally went against and took the banking farming system from them, took the land, 300 million acres of land from them, and totally helped decimate. It's kind of like how them people who come from the what did they call it? The Ashkenazi Mountains? The Ashkenazi Mountains, is that what it is? I don't know nothing about people. I'm just saying the Ashkenazi Mountains. Isn't that a place? But they say there's a certain type of people who comes from that place. The Ashkenazi Mountains. I don't know. Is it named after a mountain? I'm just knowing the Ashkenazi. But isn't it kind of strange that the last name of Ashkenazi sounds a lot like the people who persecuted sounds a lot like them people. Why is that name at the end of that name? Is there a connection there? Entertainment purposes only. Look, I don't know anything. My IQ is so low it ain't funny. I barely know how to work this camera. So don't take my word for it. I'm just talking. I'm just babbling my big lips. This is a long video. I don't think many people are going to make it through this. I'm going to have to split this thing up. Yeah, man. But is there a silver lining? It can be. Because the people want to go back to a state of peace. That's what your average person wants. They just want peace in their life. And see, a lot of people, this is what I was going to say about the books. People have access to these books from the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th century, and they tell a different story. And see, now and like I was saying, I have a problem with these FBA people, but this is the problem that I have with them. The fact that you guys keep talking about, man, they owe us a reparation for so-called slavery. And no, that is not the route that you want to go. Slavery is something different. And you know that this written in the books, the book White Cargo, and many other books is telling you that the original slaves did not look like this. The books are telling you this. The history books are telling you this here. The term redneck and all that stuff, we know that that's them. So when you ask for reparations for so-called slavery, you're not asking reparations for the torment and the damage that was done to us. They can jump in on that bandwagon and they can get that money for slavery. That's on them. If ain't nobody gonna say it, I'll say it. They can sit back and get that money for slavery and see that. And thanks to you doggone FBA people, you done wasted all these doggone years talking about reparations for slavery, for the damage of slavery. You blew it because you're not thinking. What's going on with our community is that we are suffering up under the culture of Jim Crow. Jim Crow was a system that was set up to marginalize people that look like this here through banking, education, food, land, and everything. And in order for Jim Crow to work, it had to be enforced by the people. So they had to create a culture of people using Jim Crow rules against us. Now, at the same time when Jim Crow was created, this is when they first created this thing called the police. So now people were like, okay, well, we're going to make sure that these people, they can't go into your stores, they can't go on your land, they can't buy things from you, they can't be vagrants. And anytime you see these people, it is your job to report any kind of suspicious character from them. And if they look like they don't have a job, you have the right to question them. And if they don't go by what you're saying, if they don't listen to you and put your rules first, talking about people like this here, if we don't put their rules first, then you call one of us, the new police department. And then we will come and enforce the rule that he is not able to look at you in a certain way. He is not able to laugh in public. Right. Against the rules for you to laugh in public. And he's not able to do this here. He's not able to do that here. And you don't have to be bothered with him. We'll do this. This is why you have your Karens and all these different types of people. And they hurry up and be like, man, you know what? I'm going to just call the police. I'm going to call the police. Yeah. Because that's part of their culture. For somebody to come to the bank and be like, and you can have everything perfectly clear, but the bank will deny you. And if you speak up and be like, well, man, you unfairly treating me. It doesn't matter because now they're going to have the police come and deal with you because you're speaking up for your unfair treatment. And see, people forget that it was just in the doggone right before I was born in the 60s still, that if a so-called black person even spoke anything about him being so-called equal to a white person, he could be thrown in jail or worse. The enforcement of Jim Crow culture still exists to this day. Remember, it ended on paper in 1965. We're still dealing with the residue of that. This is what you see when you see the police giving certain people unfair treatment, because they're still dealing with that Jim Crow culture that has been inbred within them. And then now you go to black codes that came before the Jim Crow culture. That was another 50-something years. We had 150 years, close to 200 years of government rules and regulations, the thing that they call a government rules and regulation that was used against people who look like me to hold them back. And they have the documents. This is all on record. You see, if you try to go for reparations or reparations for slavery, they're going to tell you to prove that you was a slave. But if you try to go for reparations, stating that that it was an organized damage done onto a group of people, and here's the document showing it, you got them. You got them. Hey, man, hey, I don't get a chance to talk like this often, man, so I'm running my mouth, man, you know what I'm saying? And look, if you're a good person, you're a good person, but, man, if this is rubbing you the wrong way, man, you better get in that mirror and check out and see why, and ask yourself why it's rubbing you the wrong way. Because if you're part of the Jim Crow culture, you're part of the doggone damage. You're part of the damage that's going on to us. Man, look, America is like this here. It's like having an airplane. Imagine it being an airplane, and they always repair the one wing, but the other wing, they never repair. They might put a Band-Aid on it, put a piece of wood or some glue on it just to keep it stable, but they won't fully repair the other wing. So eventually that wing is going to break off, and when it breaks off, the plane is going to go down just like this here. That's what we're heading for. People, they want to get rid of people who look like this here, thinking it's going to make their lives better, but no. Look, you know this. The devil has to tell you what he's going to do to you before he does it to you. This is what we say. Whenever you took the time to turn your back on the devil, I'm going to say the devil, whenever you turn your back on the devil doing something disagreeable to people who look like this here, all you was doing was saying that, man, well, it's okay. It's not happening to me. It's happening to them right now. You see, they practice on the doggone lower groups of people, and then eventually they push it all over. They push it on everyone. Well, like I said, is there a silver lining? It possibly could be if we wake up. For one thing, man, the people who rule, they have to come down. We can no longer trust them because, man, it's too easy for evil ones to hide amongst you. People who look like this here, man, we have been under attack and being destroyed and unfair treatment for a long time. So we know what not to do to people, because we don't want that coming back on us. And, man, and I'm telling you, it's almost like a game that was played, because heading into the time of Kali Yuga, this means you're heading into the dark ages, and we're still in the dark ages, and we're trying to come out into the golden age right now. The dark ages, man, is when, man, there's low morality. The morals are totally gone out the doggone window. People are full of war, hate, and self-destruction. No morality whatsoever. This is what we're dealing with right now. We're still in the dark ages. It's always been like this here. It was just a little more hidden because we didn't have cameras everywhere. But, man, this place has been a rotten place for a while, for quite some time now. Whenever you have a group of people paying taxes for law enforcement and judges, and then they can't even get justice, and they're paying for the taxes. Dude, that ain't right. This place has been held for black people for a long time. The less than 1% of the black people who own businesses and who are truly like owning things here in America, that's by design, and that is less than 1% of us. And we create so much. We've given this world everything. And we have enemies on every doggone corner. Even so-called Africans don't like us. And then us being treated as if we have no value for so long that now our children believe that they have no value, and they're out doing all kinds of self-destructive things. Not cool, man. But the reason why so-called people who look like this here are going through the hard times is because they know that we really are the ones who rule this world. People follow us and people try to be like us. So the moment that all of us become upright citizens and become upright standing people, they know the rest of the world's going to fall in play. Because we know what's best for this doggone world. And we know what people don't want. We want to bring this thing to an end. But like I said, it's the end of Kali Yuga. We're heading into the age of enlightenment. So this stuff is going to come to an end. But these doggone demons, they're not going out without a fight. They're going to try to do some mass unaliving. And that's going to cause a lot of innocent people to be. And let me tell you how vicious and wicked these things are. These demons are so wicked that they use the so-called Democratic Party to pass this bill called the, what do they call it when someone, called the Race Hate Act or the Race Hate Bill, something like that. And when somebody does some act of violence against someone because of their race, they consider it as a race something. I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, they talk about they want to give people 25 years for this if you are charged with that. Here's the thing. We're dealing with some people, man, who are evil enough to try to set up a system in which they can do whatever the heck they want to do to us. But the moment we attack them back, they're going to hit the law. They're going to sick the law on us and say that, oh, no, that was a hate crime. That's it. And then the Democratic Party, they're the ones who brought this up. Man, look, I'm not talking about the Democratic Party. I'm talking about the Nimmer Party and the other DWN Party. You know, man, entertainment purposes only. These political companies, these political corporations, these political sides, man, some of them know that they are working together and they're having fun with playing their part and projecting the illusion. But some people don't know. To them, it's real. But anyway, man, hopefully, man, things will get better for us, man. This is a long video. It's going to take 2 days for this thing to upload. But everything will be all right. I'm out.